Hey guys, welcome back to week 6 of the Deadbolt budget build. Excuse my mess here on the bench. What you'll see is the parts from an Axial Yeti kit version. I got that yesterday, started building it, but didn't get it finished up. So we're actually going to take this process into the shop today to get our upgrade done. And our upgrade for this week is going to be replacing the gears inside of that transmission. Now, right now, those gears have been holding up just fine. But as we go, and as you really are putting some abuse on this truck, it's nice to have the peace of mind and the reliability of nice, bulletproof internal gears inside your transmission. As I mentioned in the very first videos about this truck has a 32-pitch pinion and spur. What's really nice about that is more durable than the 48-pitch stuff that used to come on or came on the other SCX10s. This one's got that nice upgrade already, so we really don't have to worry about that yet. Actually, we'll probably be able to run that for quite a long time. So this week, we're going to take this truck into the shop, open up that transmission, and show you exactly what we're going to do in the replacement process of those gears. Also, while we're at it, we're going to get in there and try and do one other free mod. Try and increase your clearances, get just a little bit of extra performance out of this truck without buying or replacing any parts at all. So let's get in there and get to work and see what we can get done tonight. To start this modification, we're going to remove the transmission from the truck completely, just like we did last week. I'm going to cut any zip ties, holding our wires together, and disconnect the motor. Next, removing the 4 screws from the bottom of the skid plate, the transmission should come out without any issue. Now with the transmission completely free of the truck, we're going to remove the spur gear cover. We will need to remove the drive shaft's halves from the transmission as well. Now remove the 4 screws that hold the 2 halves of the transmission together. At this point, the final gear and the idler gear can be removed from the transmission case completely. We need to remove the spur gear assembly from the top shaft now. Be careful when removing the spur gear and spur gear cover to not lose the 3 spacers that go onto the top shaft. Remove the top shaft completely from the transmission case and remove the front bearing. Now you can pull off that top drive gear from the top shaft. Be careful not to lose the pin that goes in the top shaft. Now at this point, we're completely ready to reassemble the transmission with our brand new Axial gears. I'm going to start the assembly by replacing that top gear with the new machined version. Now, while the stock version was already metal, it was not machined. The gear material that was in there before is called sintered, which is basically made from a heated up powdered version of the metal alloy that they used. The new version we're using was actually machined from a solid piece of material, giving it a much stronger material property. Next, we're going to do the assembly of the idler gear. Remove the pin from the very center, and then remove the 2 bearings that go in on either side. You can use one of your hex drivers to kind of pop those bearings out of place. Simply take the old bearings and press them into the new gear, then replace the pin back into the center of those bearings. Lastly, we're going to take that stock final gear and remove the 3 screws from the outside of those outdrives. Now, these steel outdrives from Axial are actually very strong. That's why I'm not going with a one-piece final gear, because I actually believe that these are about as strong as most of those final gears that I've seen before, or stronger. So I like to go with a machined final gear and then bolt on the original Axial outdrives. Now, anytime you're installing a metal screw into another piece of metal, do suggest using a little bit of Loctite. A little bit goes a long ways, so that you make sure that those screws never loosen up. It can happen in those transmissions, and when it does, it gets a little ugly. Now, before finalizing the reinstallation of this transmission, I would suggest taking and applying a little bit of grease to the outside of the gears before buttoning this thing up and putting it back in the truck. You don't need to use a ton, but just a nice light coating around all of the outside of the gears, and you'll be just fine. After that, we're going to button up this transmission and put it back into the truck. So now I've got the transmission completely buttoned up and installed back into the truck. But I did mention that I wanted to get one other free mod done this week. And what that is I want to give you guys a little bit of improved clearance along the side of this rig. Now, when you're looking at your Deadbolt, you will see that it's got these side skirts here. And you can see, looking straight down the body, that they stick out quite a ways. Now, from the factory, this is as far as they go in. But what we're going to do is we're going to modify these things slightly with some simple hand tools and a Dremel to get this thing pushed in further and actually give you guys just a little bit better clearance on the side to allow you to tuck through those rocks just a little bit better. After removing the body, you remove the 2 set screws that hold in the rocker to these posts on the side of the chassis. After that, this thing will just kind of pull right out. The first thing that interferes when trying to slide this rocker further in is this crossbar that goes between the two posts. The first modification we're going to do to this part is removing that and smoothing it out just a little bit so that this thing can slide as far in as it can before it hits the little kick up in the profile of this post. After clipping that piece out with a pair of side cutters and just cleaning it up a little bit with a razor blade knife, you're probably going to be just fine. I'm actually going to take and just sand it a little bit with a normal sanding block just to get it just a little bit smoother, but it's probably not necessary. At this time, this thing will be allowed to slide further in. However, we need to trim some of the length off of this so that it doesn't bottom out on the inside of the posts that support this side rocker. I'm going to take off and trim to the second hole from the inside. So at this point, the rocker will slide further in, but it doesn't quite slide far enough in that we're going to be able to drill a new hole on the outside of this without getting just a little bit too close to the existing furthest most outside hole. So what I want to do is I'm going to take with the Dremel and just take a small amount of material out of the kick up part of this post. Now what that will do is just allow me to slide it just a little bit further in there, and then we're going to drill a new hole. Overall, this thing's going to give us probably about an 1/8 inch more clearance. Really, that's a pretty small amount. In the end, these things probably aren't going to stay on this truck for all that long, but we might as well maximize what we can do with what we have already. Now, after taking out that small amount of material on those posts, we're going to slide it back into the rocker mounts on the chassis, and then we're going to drill 2 new holes in those to allow us to remount this as tucked into the body as we can. Lastly, simply reinstall the rocker into the mounts and replace the 2 set screws that we removed in the very first step. Now, after reinstalling the body, it's going to be a very minimal change. In the end, you're going to gain almost a 1/4 inch total clearance in the middle, but if it's not something you're really worried about, so be it. However, maybe one of these days, the sum of all these little changes that you do will get you just that much further on the trail. That's kind of the fun of the hobby, and maybe it's for you, maybe it's not. But if you want to play around just a little bit with the parts you already have, it's something to do. So that's it for this week though, guys. Next week we'll be back for week 7. After that, it's going to be a Christmas episode of this thing. So I'm going to try and get everything I can done on this to make sure I get you guys episodes out again every Thursday. So check back, subscribe, and thanks for all the help, guys. The support on this project has been great.